Good morning, everybody. It's Jen. Today is January 31st, 2022, and I'm coming to you to talk about what my guides are bringing through. The energy, see, it's so strange how it just yesterday it shifted. Like we're going through these paradigm shifts, and it's almost like timeline jumping, where just in an instant, everything changes, right? And that feels very in alignment with what my guides have been saying, as far as, moving into higher frequencies, moving into higher paradigms, the energies that are coming in. We've talked about this a lot, about how there's a lot of energy coming into the planet, and how um, we're feeling this physically, but it's also triggering emotions and a lot of physical symptoms, you guys. So if you need to go back and revisit the ascension process and the ascension symptoms that can happen, that would be really good. If you're feeling, if you're feeling like, okay, yeah, I'm having ascension symptoms, but I don't really know what that means or how to deal with that, definitely go and look at those posts. You can find them in everywhere. Embodied Grace community, I know they're listed. If you really can't find it, let me know. But I think I even have blog posts about it. So because it was so important when all that was coming out, that I just felt like I had to get it out to everybody. So just know that yes, ascension symptoms can happen. Um, the Venus retrograde this year was super, super powerful. Everybody's experiencing it in different ways because of wherever it is in your personal astrology. So, however, you're personally experiencing this, but the overall theme will be, because it's Venus in Capricorn, the overall theme is going to be, what do you need to do for the long haul for yourself, right? Because that was what my guides brought through, starting at the 1221 solstice. And then, especially for the Venus retrograde, it's about unconditional love and really making changes for the long haul. Can you love yourself for the rest of your life? That is true. The only thing that would be different would be the more minor details of where that's at. Is it in loving yourself? Is it in the way you allow yourself to receive? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your communication? Is it in your work? It doesn't matter which part of the astrology chart it's in. The overall theme is, can you love yourself for the rest of your life? And then within those little tiny, it'd be whatever house placement that this is happening for you, right? So there's going to be differences for each single person, but the overall theme is still the same. Now, what my guides are saying this morning, again, like I said, yesterday was a really, I don't want to say strange energy, but a really, um, almost like, I hate to use the word void, because I feel like that's what so many people are saying. And I think it gets, like, because so many people use it, it gets lost in what that means. But because we're teetering into the energies of Pisces, right? This is where this is where there's limitless possibility. So it's almost like going back to the etch a sketch. Okay, I'm going to use this because to me it makes more sense to talk about things more plain and simple. So etch a sketch, and you've had all of these things on it. You can shake it and completely start over. It's not that you've lost what you've learned doing the etch a sketch up to that point. It's just that now you're starting from a clean slate with having all of the, like, however much time you've spent with the etch, knowing how to move the dials. You've got all of that still within you, but now you're shaking it to start something new. That yesterday, it felt like the etch a sketch has been shaken to clean, and now we're in this space. And what my guides are saying is, this next month, this next a month and a half, is really going to be, what will you build now in that, right? But in order to do that, we have to be willing to go into our inner self and know what we need to discover about ourselves, right? And heal through love anything that has been happening, as far as like almost like trauma energy, right? And I almost feel like, again, what my guides have been bringing for this whole, ever since the end of December, was calm yourself down, like the nervous system, using breath work, like all of these things are showing up. And it almost feels like a PTSD is maybe a little bit strong, but it's almost like this, well, basically just like your nerves are shot. Like you've been enduring this for so long that you're literally at the point of burnout. Like that's kind of what it feels like, right? Like it's almost like we experience so much PTSD that now we're just like, I'm empty. I'm done. I can't do anymore. Like that's kind of how it felt. And then all of a sudden yesterday, it was like this reset mark. So now what my guides are saying is, what can you discover about yourself? Are you willing to go within? And this goes along with the messages that they've been bringing through over the last 2 days. Now, if you guys are seeing me on Facebook, you know that one of the things that helps me stay grounded is really learn, like baking, taking care of my house, maybe redecorating, bringing in plants, like anything to nurture the home really makes me feel more grounded. So whatever that shows up for you, I took a salt bath, the other day, read a book. Honestly, yesterday I completely detached from, well, not completely. I think I did check Facebook like a few times, but for the most part, I put my phone away. Like I didn't even hardly use my phone yesterday at all. But it's this new level of wholeness and unconditional love that we're being asked to step into, which is going to allow us to anchor it in. Right now, again, you guys have heard this because I've been talking about it since the end of December, that this is a restoration, recreation, reconciliation within ourselves this year, right? And this is about being sacred, understanding our sacred self, bringing our spiritual essence, our soul frequency, our higher self, whatever label you have for that, and being human. Like we're being asked to understand that those actually really do go together. And there's going to be this simplicity that comes with that when we allow ourselves to be back into a natural rhythm. Okay. Now, one of the things too that my guides have been bringing in is this energy of really letting go of what others think and letting go of what you think others should think. Now, that whole idea brings us into non-judgment, right? So one of the things that my guides had me share again, or what they keep bringing me back to, I guess, um, is that we're here on the planet to experience, right? So, but what has been coming up with this key message is that what my guides are saying is that they want to encourage you to see life from eyes of non-judgment, letting go of trying to get people to see it your way. There's something about that, about letting everybody experience for themselves. Now, this isn't like don't say what you think or don't speak to your sole purpose or what you're here to speak about. It's not that. It's just you can't force others to see what you see. And this kind of goes back to the analogy of, leading them to water, but you can't make them drink, right? Now, I know that my guides have been like, okay, well, you're here. Are you going to drink or not? But that's only for us, right? Like that isn't for everybody out there that you're reaching in your communities and in your relationships and your Instagram or your social media, whatever it is, right? Like you have a message that you're here to deliver, but you want to deliver that with a thing of here's this, you if you want to align with this is here, right? But it's not you have to do this, because that's not in alignment with unconditional love, and it's not in alignment with the spiritual truth of letting everybody have their own choice, right? So the most important thing we can do is be intentional with our own choices and what we want for ourselves, using discernment, and really understanding the difference between discernment and judgment, because discernment says, I see that that's happening, I choose not to participate in that, it doesn't align with me. And judgment would be, well, what they're doing is wrong, there's no way I'm going to do that because that's bad, right? So within that, there's judgment. You're saying you're judging what they're doing instead of going, oh, I see that, but I choose that that's not for me. Discernment is that being in alignment with how are you being intentional for yourself? Okay. Now, it's really interesting what came through actually on Saturday, because I didn't channel anything yesterday because, again, like I said, it was just just a calm personal, like I didn't tap into social media or collective or anything. But Saturday morning I had gotten this message and I just didn't feel like it was right to record it yet, but this morning I'm really feeling it. So one of the things that will help you understand vibrationally where you're at, so that, and again, this is not coming from judgment, but this is coming from a place of helping you gauge where you're at and how to help yourself go deeper. Because it's an interesting paradigm and paradox of how judgment and discernment can be interlaced, right? But the higher frequency is always going to be discernment because there's no judgment in it. Okay. So what my guides had said the other day, what they brought through was, one of the things to be aware of is there a tendency to either talk over someone or let someone talk over you because they want to be a dominant part of the conversation, right? So like, this is like you're trying to say something and somebody overtalks you and really feel like you can feel that they want you to know how they feel about something and what their experience was, because it's important that you know that, even though it really may not be. The other thing is, where are you saying, well, you need to know this because this is the truth and this is what I think, right? So it's about putting your 2 cents into a conversation. And this is totally different than like having a conversation where you're so excited that then you like blurt something out because you want to, you align with it and you're excited about it and you want to, add to the energy of the conversation. It's totally different than that versus wanting to overpower someone and say that your experience is more important or that your thoughts are more right. Or I hope you can feel the energy of the difference of that. And again, this might seem harmless in the beginning. So like somebody who is always, interjecting or trying to be a dominant part of the conversation, trying to make sure that everybody knows where they're coming from, that it seems like it's a harmless behavior, but it's actually in a lack vibration because it's needing attention, needing recognition, or like needing to be seen, or needing people to understand just how hard it's been for them. And like, you have to know where I've come from. Like, when in reality, when you've done the inner work and you've reconciled it for within yourself, you don't need anybody to know because you've already dealt with it. You've already done it. And then you can show up authentically in the clean vibration, allowing everybody else to choose for themselves. Right. So within that, if you see somebody doing that, or if you catch yourself doing it, again, no judgment, but notice that this is probably a lack of feeling seen or heard. And again, it always comes back to yourself. Where are you needing to really see and hear yourself? Where are you not practicing self-awareness? Where are you not practicing self-love? Right? Because it's always the what we see in the outer world is always a reflection of what we're experiencing inside. Right? Now, what's interesting is if you're getting talked over and like you start to have a conversation and somebody else feels like they need to interject or they need to say, well, this is my experience and this is how I see it. And I just want everyone to know that this is whatever, right? Like, and they don't have to say those specific words, but you can feel that that's the energy of it, right? Sometimes what'll happen is out of the sheer sense of trying to be polite, and I have done this myself, guys. So again, whenever I bring these messages through, please know there is no judgment in this because I totally get it. And I've been on both sides. I remember back in the day feeling like, well, you need to understand this is how I feel. Whereas it was because I wasn't really reconciling that feeling within myself, which is why I was trying to make it heard. Right. So again, it always comes back to self-love and self-awareness and how are you aligned within yourself. So what happens is sometimes out of the sheer sense of being polite, we just let them talk over us. Right. We just let them talk because There's no point in trying to argue. There's no point in trying to, you know, even add to the conversation, whatever. That kind of falls into a codependent pattern. And again, what my guides have been saying over the last few years is breaking the dysfunctional human condition and radical responsibility for ourselves. Because when we have that radical responsibility for ourselves, we can then heal inside of us whatever needs healed, and we can come into divine alignment where, I don't want to say nothing matters because that's not the truth, but we can choose to just align with love and know that the other stuff really isn't that big of a deal, right? Now, again, there will be places where you need to speak out, but it's being intentional and knowing, am I really meant to speak out here, or is it not going to matter? Because people who are in that vibration, if you try to point it out to them, they're not going to hear it because they're not in a vibrational place to accept it. They're not going to receive the feedback. So there's really no point in expending your energy from somebody who isn't going to receive the help of becoming in higher alignment, because they can't receive it, because it's like the water analogy again. You're leading them in the water, but they're not going to drink because they're not ready to drink the water, right? So anyway, if it continually happens, you may need to address it in some way, or not even addressing it to the person, but again, addressing it within yourself to place a boundary, right? Because it's never right for anyone to monopolize or dominate in a conversation or in a relationship or whatever that might be, right? Now, it can be like, sometimes it can be as simple as, oh my God, they always have to one up, or they always have to talk about themselves, or something like that. Like, you can feel that way, and I get it. And again, do you need to address it with them, or can you simply place a boundary for yourself saying, okay, I can only spend X amount of time with this person before I know I'm burnt out? So then it becomes self-awareness, radical responsibility, and placing a boundary for yourself with what your limits are, right? So again, what my guide said is, be aware of this within yourself. Where do you feel you need to tell them so that they'll understand? Because if you, okay, I'm just going to read what, be aware of this within yourself. Where do you feel you need to tell them so that they'll understand? That was in quotes. Where do you feel, quote, you need to tell them so that they'll understand, in quote, or feel that you need to add your take on a topic because you know more about it, right? There's a fine line in being passive and being railroaded, is what my guides are saying. And again, this is coming back to some of the messages that I've talked about before about subtle energies, right? Subtle frequencies. So there's a lot about this energy that we're moving into being spirit-led and understanding the frequencies are so subtle, but knowing that there's a tiny shift that can happen by the most subtle frequency shift, right? Remember that the, everybody experiences things differently, right? And it's just about being aware of these subtle things. Like, and I don't know why my guides said that this was particularly what I needed to talk about, but they said a tendency for someone to talk over you or have to be dominant part of the conversation, or always trying to put their 2 cents in a conversation, might seem harmless, but is actually the vibration of needing attention or recognition. And this is actually a lack vibration, the lack of feeling seen or heard. And again, within that, where is the radical responsibility? Are you being polite and just letting them do it? Are you really drawing the boundary and saying, okay, I'm not even going to add my energy to this because I know that it's not going to do any good? But if you do that, then you can't be resentful of letting that person speak over you, right? So again, there's all of this wrapped up into being heard and being seen. And I do feel like it's coming back to these themes of being intentional for yourself, learning to love yourself authentically and unconditionally, learning to do the work that needs to be done, the forgiveness work, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving experiences, forgiving whatever it is that you need to do, forgiving God if that's what you need to do. Again, no judgment, because I've been in, right? And then also knowing that, like, one of the messages that my guides channeled a while back was, we're here to guide those who want to raise their vibration to a 5D level, but also allow those who want to continue their 3D experience in the lower matrix as they wish. They can choose that if that's what they want. Now, some are aware of the spiritual truths and laws, and some are not. So if they're unaware of it, you can share things that will help them kind of tune into that. But sometimes it's just a seed that you're planting. It's not for us to force their eyes open, right? So it's never for us to force them to, if we go back to the leading a horse to water analogy, it's not up to us to pour the water down their throat, right? We can say, here it is, we can share, but we need to let them decide for themselves if they want to align with it or not. Now, again, within this, you guys, there's no judgment in any of it. I'm curious to see what you guys are experiencing or feeling around this idea of being talked over, or noticing that you're talking over someone, or feeling that you need to be seen or heard, versus noticing that other people are needing to be seen and heard. There's no right or wrong in this, guys. I'm just curious to see where it's playing out, and see how it's coming up for you. And again, no judgment, because I've been there. I'm lucky and happy and blessed to say that I've done the work internally. And so most of what I experience is from observation mode, going, oh, wow, I see this playing out. This is interesting, right? When you can be there, it's super powerful because you're not taking things as personally. When you're in divine alignment, it's much more easy to be in alignment with only being intentional for yourself. And again, it's not because you don't care about others, because when it does involve somebody else, you're much more in alignment and awareness of why you're choosing what you're choosing, right? If you're choosing to have a conversation with somebody else, you are in alignment and you're intentional with why you're spending your energy there. So keep in mind, again, that time is money is energy. So wherever you're spending your money, your time, or your energy, is going to be, is that in divine alignment? So again, this is always about coming into refinement within ourselves. One of the words my guides used last week was recalibration. But allow everyone to be in their own frequency. Allow everyone to experience the shifts themselves, because even though we may be feeling like we're experiencing at a different level, we're all experiencing a paradigm shift one way or another. Just others may not be quite at the same high frequency that you are. And there may be others who are a higher frequency than you are. Again, there's no judgment, because it's not a race. It's about experience, right? So sending lots of love to you guys. I would love to hear from you how this lands and what this feels like to you. Again, it's a big subject. But I really did feel like I needed to come in and talk about it. So sending you guys lots of love, and I will talk to you all soon.